All right, let's get everybody else up in here before it's officially time for Broncos for breakfast. Got the spinning wheels there, 1 and 2. All right, good morning, 7:30 Mountain Time, December 14th, Tuesday. Welcome in. It is time for an episode of Broncos for breakfast. I am your host, Nick Kendell, and joined by, as always, Scott Kennedy. Scott, how we doing? How's the coffee?
It's too hot to drink so far. I haven't had any yet, but I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be good. Let me mute some stuff here while I get ready to watch Facebook at the same time. It doesn't quite show up because of my green screen, but this is what I'm drinking today. It's the sloth. I saw a good comment from Falling Sloth, so it's the sloth coffee from Cafe Brit. No, they don't sponsor me or anything, but a good comment. I guess Falling Sloth, one of our community members, is from Cincinnati, so he's got a special interest in this game this week, and I happen to be drinking that coffee. So it all comes together here on Broncos for breakfast.
It's a circle. Now we got the Mac G Bucks coming in. How many draft picks do the Broncos have? Right now it's 9. And Scott Kennedy, man, that guy's always just coming in here messing around. No,
I'm 3 hours ahead of you.
you
3 hours ahead of you gets me 10 minutes in front of you. That's about it. That's how much time I need.
Yeah, no, for sure. But I've been making this the live stream about the night before, just so it's there's can be people come in, leave a comment or anything. But be smart to the package some of those together for higher picks. Don't want 9 rookies on the team next year. Probably not. I think forget about
that's the thing we talk about. I hear people say it's like, oh, we got 11 draft picks this year, and the way he drafts, that'd be great. I'm like, no, that's not what you want. You want about 6. So if you can take 2 6s and move it to a 4th, great. If you can do something like that where you can get 6 really impact players to pair with the class you had this year, but you don't have 11 open roster spots on this team to trade down and do all these type of things. So draft capital is good, but that doesn't mean you want them all as players, as all individual players.
Yep, and yeah, you know what my love strategy is here in this situation, and I am very much influenced by the mid 2000s Patriots. Take some of that 2022 capital, turn it into 2023 plus interest. Just keep kicking that can and getting more capital for the future and more flexibility for the future. This is assuming you're not trading for veterans. Another thing you can do with those extra picks is something the Ravens have done pretty consistently. The Jaguars, Calais Campbell doesn't want to be there anymore and you don't want to take on his contract. Here's a 5th round pick. We'll take Calais Campbell off your hands, and he's been amazing for the next.
Afford him for sure.
Yeah, God, yeah, that's what good teams do with the flexibility of the picks. Luke Wright coming in. Hey y'all, good morning. I had a question. What's the best and safest way to get Broncos tickets? They have official Broncos NFL websites that have ticket exchanges that you can use. I would say that would probably be the safest. Maybe not the cheapest, but if you're looking for a guarantee, anything that is actually associated with the league is going to be pretty safe.
Yeah, Ticketmaster, go right to DenverBroncos.com and go to tickets, and there will be resellers. If there's Detroit would have been easier than it will be moving forward because there were a bunch of no-shows, but let it tick down. I've got Atlanta United season tickets, and I'll set mine at a price to sell because that's when they go, but I'll move mine down to like half of face value an hour before the game. If you're traveling from, making a day trip to get there, your biggest expense is your travel. You're not going to worry about $50 on a ticket, but when you're spending $2,000 to get there, but go to DenverBroncos.com and click on tickets, and you should be able to find something there.
Absolutely. We got Ethan coming in. Good morning, gents in Broncos country. EJ's in the house. Good morning, Nick and Scott in Broncos country. Not that we should have kept him, but Max Garcia looked decent for Arizona last night. Also, good morning from Chase. Jeremy's in the house. Jeremy, we've been calling your name the past couple of days. Scott's had some references to no avail. Deaf ears over here. So we need you for your movie buff references. We got Leon Archuleta coming in saying, I'm really hoping the Broncos to draft Carson Strong. Dude has the whole kit. Just needs time to develop. Love Carson Strong's arm talent. Not the most mobile. Probably will always be pretty dependent on his offensive line and pass protection more than most quarterbacks. Going to be a transition for him to work under center coming from the air raid. But the biggest thing for me with Carson Strong, that knee is apparently a big concern, to the point where they're talking about having to use a surgery where they take a ligament from a cadaver and put it in him so he could be out his entire rookie year. Degenerative knee, bone on bone. I am not that kind of doctor, not osteoorthopedics or anything, so I can't speak to that. But there is some real concern with Carson Strong knee that makes me concerned.
Anytime I hear the word cadaver, I think bad news. I can't ever remember hearing that in a positive connotation. We used a cadaver.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah. But you buy them on the cheap. You talk about you got nine draft picks. Use an extra third on him, an extra fourth on him, and maybe it's low risk, high reward.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Leon. And Carson Strong, I mean, heck, if the Broncos, then all it takes is one team to be like, you know what, he's worth a shot, even though we know the risk. So we'll see. Dave Glassman coming in with the hearts. Thank you so much, Dave. DBA's in the house. Good morning to you, DBA. Peter over in Cambodia. Good morning, Broncos country. Morning to you, Peter. We love you. We got Jesse in the house. Please, please don't let Fangio be back. We will never be a Super Bowl with him as a head coach. That's possible. We'll get into that, though.
Cody's in the new name, Jesse. I don't recognize your name coming in. So welcome to Broncos for Breakfast. A lot of new names coming in today. So as the show is growing in popularity, we appreciate you. We don't have the first two rules of Fight Club. You tell everybody about us.
Exactly. No, Cody also, I don't recognize this name or this dog. Very good boy or girl. Good morning, Broncos country. Hope everyone is well on this fine morning and evening, depending on where you are. Positive message to Cody. Don't go anywhere. Stick around. Dave Glassman with the stars and the hearts. We love you. Jeremy talking about depends on your depth. You got EJ in the house, Nick and Scott. Bengals pass defense is trash. Do you guys think this is the game for our receivers to get the ball more than 3 times? We're going to save a lot of the Bengals stuff for Thursday, no doubt about it. But the Bengals, I think, are top 5 in run defense DVOA, and their pass defense has not been as good, although Chidobe Awuzie, former Colorado Buffalo, has been playing pretty good for them at cornerback. So you want the Broncos to pass because you want them to be able to take advantage of what the other team is good or bad at, but I'm not sure the Broncos are good enough throwing the football right now from the quarterback to the pass protection that you're going to see the Broncos go too far away from the run game.
Yeah, if you're running for 6 yards a carry, you're not going to get it to the wide receivers.
Yeah.
There's only one ball. That's the people. It's kind of easy to spot agendas sometimes. When you go for 37 points and you have a lot of success. Well, what about that guy? Fellas, there's only one ball. There's only one ball to go around. Not everybody can star in each game. Just doesn't work like that. I'm sorry. That's basic math.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. We also got Jamal coming in. Good morning, Broncos country. Firefick and hire an offensive-minded head coach and draft quarterback. Some people will agree with you there. We got Facebook users saying, good morning, fellas. Good morning, Broncos country with the coffee. Greg Smith, aloha to you. Got Clee in the house. Bronco could easily use 9 rookies, 1 developmental quarterback, running back, kick returner, 2 backups.
2 backup balls, nose tackle, defensive end, 2 cornerbacks. The old saying in college football is for every freshman in the lineup is a loss.
Yeah.
Not quite like that anymore. But again, if you've got the second-year guys, what are there, 7 or 8 of them right now? You've got a third of your roster as first or second-year guys. That sounds nice in principle, but they're not all going to be hits. 2, they're not all going to develop. So your practice squad, that's where you can get some use out of those guys. But you don't want 9 rookies in your 2 deep. I promise you that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Holler Surf Bros in the house. We got Edward Olivas. We got DeAndre Weatherspoon, Mile High Truth. And guys, welcome in. We got to get to the matters of business here real quick. You can follow our main podcast Twitter account at Huddle Up Pod, as well as at Mile High Huddle. Make sure you're following Scott and myself. Scott is at Scout Kennedy, and I am at Nick Kendell MHH. With the Christmas, man, you guys, I know some of you are still lacking in your Christmas shopping. Make sure you head on over to huddleuppod.com and check out our hats, our merch, the coffee mugs. Obviously, Scott and I have been enjoying those all season.
There is a new beanie. There's a new Broncos for Breakfast beanie. So y'all don't see me in the evening, but at nights I've got a beanie on. As soon as I get done with the show, I throw a beanie on. If it's below 60 degrees, I probably have a beanie on. So there's a new Broncos for Breakfast beanie in the store at huddleuppod.com.
Well, there you go. That's a touch for Scott, man. That's all you. I enjoy my beanies too, but mostly caps. Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. Make sure you leave a comment. We also got Apple Podcast. Leave your football priest a 5-star review and a chance to win some swag. I really appreciated the one that we just had this last week. Made me laugh. I think it was from my wife, maybe. What an amazing show to watch about some Broncos football. Chad, Scott, and Zach are the guys. Zach, when he's talking, I can't help but find myself yelling preach due to spot on. Nick, on the other hand, I couldn't disagree with more. Stick to the Broncos football and not the Iowa Hawkeyes or your hatred for Drew Lock. Overall, love the podcast. So if you're going to come in there and leave a 5-star review but hate on me, come for me. I love it. I can take it. I'm a man. I'm 40. We're going to hit all the classic press conferences.
You're a kid. What are you talking about? We can't pick on you yet. I'll take it, man. I'm an OG.
Make sure you also subscribe to us on YouTube by subscribing, liking, and sharing. And subscribe to Scott's channel at youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy. All right. Well, let's get into things here. Well, I'll let Scott look over the channel to make sure that I'm not missing any stars. But the main topic we wanted to get into here is about, a month ago, 6 weeks ago, we were talking Vic Fangio, dead man walking. There's no way that this Broncos team is kind of falling apart. They haven't beaten anybody really that good. This is probably about week 8. And, inevitability, Broncos going to hire Dan Quinn, an offensive mind, et cetera, et cetera. Not so fast, my friends. Broncos have gone on a bit of a run here. Obviously, losing to the Chiefs and the Eagles haven't been great, but, whipping the Chargers, whipping the Cowboys, beating Detroit, sitting there at 7-6 now with a real possibility to make the playoffs. There's a chance that playoffs or not, Vic Fangio is back. So Scott, just off the hoof, chances on Vic Fangio being back. What are your feelings there?
Peter, thanks for the stars. And I'm kind of, this is the game. For me, this is the game. This is one I've been looking at for a while. You're supposed to beat Detroit. We kind of chalked that up as a W. So all of the things that we were saying about wins, losses, et cetera, you're still on track. So is the team going to play better? This is the game. Yeah. If you lose this one, you're in big trouble. Your playoff hopes take a huge hit. Your chances of coming back as the head coach of this team take a huge hit. So we will see. I had this chalked up as a loss a couple weeks ago. I'm not sure I'm ready to change my mind just yet. I want to we'll dive into that deeper on Thursday. But this is the game. This is the game. This is the one you got to win. I don't use must win very often. You got to win this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a little bit concerned because the last time the Broncos beat a vastly inferior opponent, they came out and looked flat as hell, going from the Jets to the Ravens. But what can you do? A lot of that is going to determine if Vic Fangio is the future. But you know what else is the future? Cryptocurrency is the future. So don't get left in the past. Bet with mybookie.ag, and you can get in the game right now. To get you kickstarted with crypto, use my promo code MHH to double your first crypto deposit at mybookie.ag. The best part is mybookie.ag accepts well-known cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Litecoin, and etc. So you can bet and withdraw with crypto.
Yeah, build your own props, create multi-game parlays, and take part in a host of mybookie.ag cash prize contests. This is the best time of year to both watch and bet on sports because you've got enough of a sample size. You know who the winners are by now. So don't miss out. Double your first deposit using promo code MHH. Your first deposit of up to $1,000. Keep your eyes peeled for more exclusive holiday promotions coming soon at mybookie.ag. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. And speaking of interesting stats and numbers, Shane Daniels comes in with some nice stars saying, morning, Nick and Scott. If Gordon and Williams average around 60 yards a frame over the next 4 games, we'll have 2 1,000-yard rushers. When was the last time that happened in the NFL? So I happened to see a comment, and I'm going to call this person out real quick because he did a good job. It was Retribution on YouTube. Like I said, I go back through the YouTube comments. The Facebook comments are a little hard to keep up with. YouTube does a better job with after the fact comments. And he says, Williams needs 64 yards rushing. Gordon needs averaging 71. They'll be only the 6th running back duo in NFL history to reach 1,000 yards each. Zonka and Morris, Harris and Bleier. I'm guessing that's the old Steelers. Mack and Biner, you guys remember Ernest Biner, don't you? Jacobs and Ward and Williams and Stewart. And my comment on that was I was a little surprised that Barry Word and Christian Okoye weren't on that list. I used to play with the Chiefs on 92 Madden because of those two guys.
Oh, man, I would have used Steve Atwater and made you have a come to Jesus moment over the middle with Okoye there.
No, I remember watching Monday Night Football, and they were playing. Ronnie Lott had moved over to the Raiders at that point. And the term that was used, and I use this all the time now because it was great. He goes, this is diabolical what the Chiefs are doing to the Raiders and Ronnie Lott. Ronnie Lott had glassed eyes over seeing stars by the end of that game. I think those two both won about 500 combined. Okoye, the Nigerian Nightmare, and Barry Word they were beasts.
Yeah, but you know the famous hit that Steve Atwater just absolutely
famous hit. Let's line them up 10 times. The thing is, and we talk about that with offense, defense. I didn't understand it when I was a kid. Why is it so much harder to play defense? Why does a defense get tired? You're playing the same game because one ball carrier is getting hit by 6 guys. So I can change out the ball carrier, but each of those 6 guys are chasing and going off all these times. So, playing and hitting like that, and we can talk a little Kareem Jackson too. he's hitting different people with that force every time, but he's the one taking the
brunt.
blows every time. So his violence is being dished out across 6 guys, but the impact is coming on him every time. And that becomes a little tough. But yeah, I do remember that hit. The Chiefs, and like I said, I was a little surprised. I'd have to look up. I maybe they weren't that prolific, but that team was fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. We got Iron Man coming in here saying Boone had a good game in Gordon's absence, but disappeared again when he got back. Can the Broncos still use him somehow? Well, there's a reason for that. Boone was on the sick bug list and inactive, so we're not going to see him because he's sick and ineligible with that. So we'll see him at some point, and I know that now it's kind of funny. Fans are fickle, right? But Melvin Gordon comes out and says, I've been pretty good here, and the fans are not treating me very well. And now all the fans are like, well, let's re-sign Melvin Gordon. So you guys make me laugh. Not you guys specifically, but just fans in general.
No, honestly, not really. The idea is in I don't know. I don't think the market's going to be as hot for Melvin Gordon as some are projecting. I mean, he's on 8 right now. He's not going to get 8 again. Maybe 6.
I was going to say 5.
Maybe, yeah. I was thinking, 2 years at 5 with a guaranteed of 6, and then he's pretty expendable the next year.
Yeah.
And maybe he wants to come back to prolong his career. Why? I'm okay being a number 2 if you're going to give me 15 touches a game at 30 years old. You'll be 29 next year. 30 years old, and I can play another 4 or 5 years in the league. Okay, I'm okay with that. We'll see. We'll see. That'll be one of the more interesting markets. Charles Meredith comes in with some stars. We got a Vic fan. Those aren't real common in Broncos country right now.
Stand up.
So we need Vic. He's great. Shermer, got to go. I've yet to see a Shermer fan. Nick's about as close as I've seen so far.
I'm a Shermer sympathizer because he's had terrible quarterbacks.
Sympathy's worse, man. Sympathy's worse. I don't need your sympathy.
For sure. Yeah, Shermer. It's weird because when you step back and look at Shermer statistically speaking, year by year, almost every single quarterback he has had a career year under Shermer, which is what you want, right? You want them to maximize what that quarterback does. Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, it's not great this year, but he's having a career year. The only good or plus, I'd say plus, quarterback he's ever had has been Donovan McNabb. The rest of them have been very bad, terrible, honestly.
Which chicken or the egg here? Is it that people don't trust him? Or the top quarterbacks aren't going to want to play for him, or why not? How are you in the league this long and not have a quarterback? I mean, I think it's just hard. Coordinators bounce around all the time. You're bound to luck into one at some point.
It's hard to get a good quarterback, as Denver's finding out, and as Cleveland found out years and years and years, and are still finding out, right? Well, Baker Mayfield's the answer. Not so fast. You gonna pay him this year? I don't know. We got the DWI guys coming in with 50. I'll let Scott look around and make sure that we're not getting any stars that we're missing. But DWI guys, I can see this one. The orange flash in here, $50, $49.99. Ethan, thank you so much. I can't see any way or reason Fangio stays short of winning the Super Bowl. Wow, that's a tough one, and I got some reasons for you. Let's get it back into this Vic Fangio, while Scott's looking for some stars or anything that pokes.
Yeah, I've got some, but we can hit some. I got to hit Miguel. Good. I'm still scrolling down Facebook too, so Miguel has been patient. Normally we're fairly on top of these. I'm about 8 minutes behind y'all. So
yeah, you guys are amazing. It says we only have 93 people watching on my end, but the comment section is lit. So shout out to the community. You guys are. Unless you're leaving me nasty comments on iTunes. No, I'm just kidding. I love you guys. I can't see any way Fangio stays short of the Super Bowl. I don't think that's true. I think there's even a path where the Broncos don't make the playoffs and Vic Fangio is back. There's no doubt that the defense has been playing better as of late. The scheme is really starting to come together. The scheme also, Vic Fangio specifically, seems to have the number of Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert. Statistically speaking, now the Chiefs are still beating the Broncos because the Chiefs defense, every time they play the Broncos, turns into like the 85 Bears for God knows. There's definitely a way where Vic Fangio is back, and I think it's starting to trend more likely than unlikely. Now, 4 games to say. They're not going to say anything for sure, but that's I think that they're looking for stability. And the other thing that's really important that I think is a factor that people don't consider enough, it's the timeline of when you'd have to hire a new coach coming right before you bring in a new owner. You're going to be really dealing with a weird situation where you're going to be interviewing guys, bring guys in, saying, yeah, we'll keep you here. We love you. And it's like, well, what's the power dynamic and my responsibility and authority going to be with a new owner? Can't answer that. You don't know until you have a new owner. Then you could have Jerry Jones. You could have a Khan. You could have the terrible guy who's the Rams owner. You have no idea. Kroenke, that's it. Yep. Bottom line, Kroenke. So those are all things where it's going to make it it's a weird situation for the Broncos to hire and coach right before they bring in a new owner, which could totally change the direction of this franchise and the power dynamics.
All right, 4 games left. Bengals, Raiders, Chiefs, Chargers. Yeah. 2-2 is 9-8. 1-3 is 8-9.
If you're 8-9, I think you're out. I think you have to at least go 2-2 and finish above 500.
Which of these 4 games are the Broncos? How many of these 4 games are the Broncos going to be favored in? 1?
I think they'll be favored they're favored against Cincinnati.
Yeah, that's 1.
I think they'll be favored against the Raiders with the Raiders
maybe,
falling apart.
Maybe the Raiders.
The Raiders also don't have really a home field advantage in Vegas. It's kind of like how Dallas is, where it's a destination for traveling fans. They'll be not favored against the Chargers, although, again, that's another team that doesn't really have a home field advantage. And Kansas City, week 18. Right now, I'd say Kansas City would be favored. But 3 weeks from now, what are the Chiefs playing for? Do they already have their playoff spot locked up? Are they not going to have a bye? So to the point where they're going to need to maybe use that week 18 as a bye for some guys.
It all comes down to this game.
It really does. If they win this game,
someone
they
said
have
that
such
earlier
a chance.
today.
Yeah.
It just, if you lose this one, kiss it goodbye.
Yeah.
You lose, the momentum's gone, the belief is gone.
Having to go 3-0 against the AFC West.
Yeah, I mean, we said that about the Lions, of course. That one was pretty obvious, because if you can't beat the Lions at home with half a team, then you can't beat these other teams. That's but the Bengals are fighting for their lives too. And they're a pretty good football team. Like I said, we'll get back into it, but it needs to come down to this one. But no, Ethan, I don't see any way or reason. Okay, I get that one, but anyway, he could be around. You know, if you go 10-7, 3-1 down the stretch, make the playoffs, you don't fire that guy. That's progress. That's progress.
Mm-hmm.
I get him a new quarterback, but that's definitely progress for sure. Yeah, and that's what I'm looking for as an administrator, as a manager. That's what I'm looking for, is a team making progress. Was it 5-11 last year to 10-7? You're coming back.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's probably the case. Now, the one thing that is and we got DBY guy saying he disagrees with me. That's okay. We can.
Yeah, that's okay. I don't agree with myself half the time.
That's very true. Yeah, it's really going to depend a lot also on this offseason. Now, you're not supposed to be able to talk with players that are on other teams, but let's say you hear it through the grapevine or another agent that, like, Russell Wilson would love to come to Denver. Doesn't really trust Vic Fangio, but if Dan Quinn's there, you know what? I'm going to strike my list and be like, I'm coming to Denver. Maybe that changes the formula for you. Now, we can't officially say that would happen because Russell Wilson's under contract with Seattle, and therefore he's not allowed to talk with the Broncos, but agents talk, players talk with each other, et cetera, et cetera. So that could change the dynamic as well, where let's say they are a 10-win team. They've just missed out on the playoffs, and but now you have a chance at Russell Wilson coming in here, or there's some talk of Aaron Rodgers with his offensive coordinator, and that could change things. For me, even if you're playing well, the chance to get that franchise quarterback, I am very much a believer that it's about the guys on the field 10 times more than the coaches. I mean, Bill Belichick even says that football games, 95% is the athletes on the field. It's the margins of that 5 to 10% where the coaches make a difference. And that can, I mean, that's a big chunk, no doubt about it, but it's mostly about the players on the field. No doubt about it.
Yeah, and Miguel coming in says, good morning, fellas. Did you see that Melvin Gordon is one of 6 players with at least 7 touchdowns in his first 6 years? What does that mean for his contract talks? The important part of that statement isn't the 7 touchdowns. The important part is 6 years.
Yep.
He's got over 1,500 touches already, 29 years old, free agent. What's it going to do for his contract talk? It's going to hurt him because he's getting older. That's what it's going to do. And in a perfect situation, he is in a perfect situation right now. He really is. Mm-hmm. Where you get to split the carries, be on a winning team. That's ideal for him. However, if someone comes and says, okay, we want to offer you 4 to come back and be part of this team, Melvin, and someone else comes in and says 8, well, bye, Melvin, goodbye. Money will help change that. So it's really going to depend on what the market sees in him. And I don't think it's going to be quite as hot as we've seen, simply because of his age, as some of the things we've talked about. I'll be shocked if he gets 8 a year again.
Yeah, that's with his third contract, I'd be imagining maybe 5 a year for a couple seasons and a chance to be a number 1 elsewhere, which he probably won't get in Denver. But He's been really good. No doubt about it. I'm
a team like the Falcons might be able to scrape together $5 million. For a running back. I think they're paying Mike Davis $3 million this year. Melvin Gordon would be an upgrade on Mike Davis, but until they address the offensive line, it doesn't matter who's back there. I could see him getting. He could get more than 4, 5 or 6 on a 1-year deal to come in and be a number 1 could be very appealing for him. Listen, I want one more shot at being the guy, or I could come and play here and have a little security, knowing I'm going to be on a good team for a while. And playing meaningful football and getting better quality touches, for lack of a better phrase. But he's getting older.
Yeah, that's the one thing, man. It's cars, and you don't want to dehumanize these guys, but it's driving a car off a lot, right? Like they depreciate so much so quickly. And sometimes you have outliers like Frank Gore, who play until he's been playing since the Nixon administration. But that's an outlier.
One of the phrases I use in scouting is, with a small enough sample size, I can prove any point. Oh, look at Frank Gore. Look at Tom Brady. Look at Kurt Warner. Blah, blah, blah. You do not build a team based on the exception to the rule. Can't do it. You got to play the probabilities. And the probabilities are he's going to start slowing down. Do I want to keep playing premium money for a guy that's going to be slowing down? No, I do not.
Yeah, and then you talk about the drafting the outlier or something like that. Kenny Pickett, somebody in this upcoming class who he might be the best quarterback in this class right now, or he might be the first quarterback taken in this class. He's been pretty good on tape this season. He was good on tape last year as well, from what I've seen. However, there are some metrics for him that make me concerned with him as an outlier. He's going to be 24 years old as a rookie, which quarterbacks play for a long time, but there's kind of a learning curve in the league where you see quarterbacks, they have to like get by on their physical attributes, and then at some point they reach like a mental peak, and when their physical skills start to diminish, and the mental side
takes about 12 years old.
I peaked when I was 7 years old. The John Elway, Mark McGuire era of my sports fandom was number 1. But Pickett's already gonna be 24. That's a concern. Also, he's literally right. If Mock Draftable, which has a database of combine and pro days dating back to 1999, is correct, and Kenny Pickett's 8.25 inch hand length is correct, Kenny Pickett will have the smallest hands of any quarterback that's come through draft evaluation since 1999, which is, you want to say that's a big deal, you want to say it's not a big deal. I'm not going to take it from you. The NFL teams are going to care about that, especially teams that are playing in cold weather. Maybe down in like Saints, New Orleans in a dome, small hand Pickett, whatever, that's fine. In Denver, in the AFC North, in the NFC North, teams like that, I think it's going to matter to them.
Get the sticky Pickett.
Yeah, and there's talk that he's like double jointed. Like, does that matter? I don't know. That sounds like a weird thing to be like, oh, well, it's okay. He has small hands. He's double jointed. That's weird to me. But I don't know. Just I'm not about drafting the exception too early. Now, there's a point, obviously, like if he was there day 2, his tape is definitely good enough where
it's all about risk reward. It's all about probability. It's math at the end of the day. I mean, to a certain extent, obviously,
investments.
Yeah, it's ROI, and you've got to take risks. And the more shots you have, the better chance you have to get a player, which is nice to have all those picks. Which goes back to contradict what I was saying. It'd be nice. What my point was, you don't want 9 rookies on the team, but that doesn't mean you couldn't bring 9 to camp. So let me go back on what I was saying earlier about having all those draft picks with the practice squad and all that type of stuff. You're not going to get 9 impact players in a draft of in the 6th and 7th round. So let me rephrase that a little bit. Peter coming in and says, Teddy's a new Andy Dalton. Anyone better is a good or franchise quarterback. Anyone worse is a risk of losing his job. And that's kind of where Teddy has found that niche. He's coming, it's like, all right, our quarterback just went down. Who can come in and finish the season for us? We don't have a quarterback who can get us by until the next year. And it's a very nice living for Teddy Bridgewater. But it's not the most inspiring of choices for the fans. Like, oh, great, here comes Teddy. We're mediocre at quarterback position for a year until we can figure this out. It's better than no quarterback. I promise you, the New Orleans Saints would rather have Teddy than Trevor Siemian, which is called and asked about him. It's like, oh, y'all hate him up there? Good, send him to us. But I agree. I think that's kind of his role, where you can come in and be a fill-in starter for someone that is quarterback-less. Yeah,
no doubt Teddy's limited, and he limits this offense a lot. But at least he's getting the hell out of the way. I mean, this is again. Oh, everyone cover your ears. Iowa Hawkeye reference here, but like your quarterback can be detrimental, but you can win football games sometimes with talent around them if the quarterback is not detrimental to you out there. And last year, the Broncos had a game far too often. The quarterback position was detrimental to the outcome of the game. The Broncos last year, number one in the NFL in turnovers per possession at 0.174. Number one in the NFL in interceptions per possession. Second to last in plays per possession, second to last in time of possession per possession. So they were just getting rid of the ball like crazy. One of the worst in yards per possession and 29th in the league, 28th in points per possession. This year, Broncos 12th now in turnovers per possession, 13th in interceptions per possession. They're 7th in plays per possession, 4th in time of possession per possession, which sounds like a crazy stat, but it's all about efficiency metrics, right? It's not about like if you score 20 points on 12 possessions, that's worse than scoring 20 points on 8 possessions. Dadoy. So efficiency metrics matter in that sense. But again, we've no doubt Teddy Bridgewater is not a guy who's going to win games for you, but at least he's not out there making it hard for you to win games, hard on your defense, hard on your run game, hard to play complementary football.
It's a family show, dude.
God, I need a sip of coffee.
Remember me saying, just rewind it about 12 years old, peak? Yeah, 12 years old. It's about right.
But back to, okay, we got Gary actually first. More important, Gary leads Palmer. Only George Payton knows what the line is for the coaches, but do you throw them out for not making the postseason? I say yes.
Yeah.
You think if they go 10-7?
Gary says, you know, do you throw them out for not making the postseason? Yeah. Yeah. This is a playoff team. You got a shot. Like I've said before, I was actually a little surprised that Fangio survived the general manager change. You got to coming off of 5-11, two losing seasons in a row, haven't made the playoffs in forever. That's not all on him. Yeah. And a new general manager come in, they usually want their own guy. So part of that is, okay, I'll give him a year, and we'll see where we are. I think Peyton's done a really good job of building this roster and setting it up for future success, not just with the young players, but with the cap, the draft capital, and all those things that you want as a general manager that makes guys like Nick and I excited because we love the administrative and the team building aspect of this of this league. But you know, you didn't make the playoffs. I'm gonna go get my own guy. I think sure.
George Payton has been really good at keeping things close to his chest so far. So when I've heard that he's looking more for a defensive-minded coach and stability, that could be completely off base because that's been the Vic Fangio or the George Payton era. Nobody knows what he's thinking but him. So I do think that there's definitely a possibility that Vic could be out. But my understanding right now is that things are trending towards Vic being back. Obviously, the final 4 games are going to have a lot to say about that. But George Payton, one of the reasons he says he came to Denver, he says, was because of Vic Fangio and the scheme. I know. But again, this is stuff that's come back around that I've heard from some people connected to the organization. It's like, okay, that lines up with things he said previously, at least. I do think there is a path, though, where Broncos are 10-7, miss the playoffs on tiebreakers because there are literally 14 teams in the NFL right now with 6 or 7 wins. And let's say they go 10-7, lose on tiebreakers because the AFC conference record is not as good as the Bills or the Browns or the Chargers. Let's say those are the 3 AFC teams. You still get 10 wins, but you can't get in. I could see Vic Fangio still being back.
Yeah, you have 10-7.
And miss out.
Then it's just weird. That's a playoff team. That's a playoff caliber team. You had a playoff caliber season. Possible. And you play well and everything looks good and you're 10-7, you finish on a high note. I think a majority of the fans would say, yeah, let's keep going with this. We'll see. But that's a big if. There's a lot, you know.
It starts this week. You've all keeps coming back to this Bengals game is so big. They have to win this one. They have to win.
And Ben says, our best season in 5 years, yet a fraction of the fan base want us to lose in order to blow it up and start over. To get rid of Teddy and Fangio seems a little personal. It is personal, Ben. It's very personal. I've said before that you know, these are jobs. You know, Teddy may be here for 12 months. You're going to be a Broncos fan for life. For life. It's very personal to you. Fangio might be here 3 years. He might be onto another job. This is a profession for them. Where are the fanatics? If it's not personal to us, who is it personal to? So if you say, listen, I don't think these guys are good enough, and you know, you don't necessarily want your team to lose, but unfortunately, the way this league is set up, they reward you for losing. The way American sports are set up, you're better off losing if you're not going to win at all. And that's wrong. It's un-American. So it encourages that type of thought, and it's only rational. It's like, listen, I'd rather lose because it's better for us in the long run. I understand that. I don't agree with the way it's set up personally. In international leagues, if you lose enough, they boot you out of the league. That's awesome. It's awesome. They won't do that here because it's a billionaire boys club where you pay a franchise fee and you buy your ticket and you make money. The only people that really get hurt are the fans. So I get it, Ben. And it's very personal.
Yeah. It is personal. As far as blowing it up, though, I think that some people are a little bit extreme. With that, if this was a House Hunters episode or something, I don't watch any of that crap, but you'd come onto the Broncos right now, you'd knock around a little bit, look at the basement, there's no mold. Man, this house is good bones. This Broncos team has good bones. There's no reason to have a demolition of the entire foundation.
It's not a blow up. It's a changing out. It's a lot easier. The phrase goes, it's a lot easier to change a coach than it is to change a 53-man roster.
Yeah,
you feel pretty good about 50 of the 53 on the roster. So let's get a new coach.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And thank you so much for the comment, Ben. We appreciate you. So Broncos, you think Vic Fangio being back 10 wins, that means 3-1 down the stretch. I agree with you there. Do you see any pathways where the Broncos finish 9-8, 2-2 down the stretch, and Vic Fangio is back?
They still make the playoffs and make a run, eke in, win a playoff game. Then you never know. So this team's got a puncher's chance because they're fundamentally sound on defense, and they've got a good running game.
They win football.
So they should be
games.
in most games.
Yeah.
They're not turning the ball over. They should be in them. It's not always the most exciting. It's kind of dull at times, and you feel like if you fall behind, it's over. And again, what's the common theme that we hit on a lot is hope. It's hope, man. If we fall behind, my hope is gone. When your hope is lost, what's left but despair. Or acceptance. And we're getting real philosophical this morning on Broncos for breakfast. So, you go 9-8 and eke your way into the playoffs and make a run, go to the AFC Championship game. Yeah, you're probably bringing those guys back.
Yeah, and Fallen Sloth, we were talking about you earlier. Scott had some coffee for you. But the way the Broncos sit right now, Fallen Sloth is right. The pathway to the Broncos making the playoffs with 9 wins, 9-8, is almost impossible. The Broncos kind of made that bed when they ended up deciding that most of their wins this season, non-conference wins, were going to come from the NFC, which means that almost every single multi-team tiebreaker where you're going to have multiple teams at 9 wins or 10 wins, Broncos are going to lose because they're going to have a lower AFC strength of or AFC winning record. So that's going to be a big one for them. They're going to have to get in it with 10 wins.
So, and checking the chat here, Alex coming in, saying, Alex, that's a new name for me. So it says, good morning, Denver Broncos for life. Good morning, Alex. And Josiah coming in. Good morning. Some people coming in a little bit late. Appreciate you coming in. The numbers have doubled in the last 20 minutes. So somebody got their notifications, or, at 8 o'clock, people are starting to hit the car or something. So appreciate y'all being here.
Yeah, some other names. We got Wyatt saying, I'll take Drew's turnovers all day over Teddy's lack of play. You don't sound like a coach to me with that one, or somebody who's watched Big Ten football, but that's you. That's your preference.
Some might say that the turnovers is lack of play.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely.
I get what you mean, though, Wyatt. It's uninspiring. I'd rather have a guy at least take a chance. I get it. I get that.
Yeah. If the Broncos had an absolutely terrible defense, I might be a little bit more into that. But when you have a great defense, you need to reward them and give them a chance and lean on your strengths. And not turning over the ball is probably the most important thing you can do outside of long sustained drives that end in touchdowns. But Shane Daniels coming in. I think it's simple. We make the playoffs. Vic stays. We don't make the playoffs. He goes. Win-lose record won't play until that decision. I think there's a little bit of nuance there, but if the Broncos make the playoffs, no doubt about it, the Vic Fangio's back. Unless, guys, no doubt about it. Unless for some reason, let's say you hear that Russell Wilson wants to come, but only if you hire Dan Quinn as your head coach. Okay, sorry, Vic. We appreciate you making the playoffs. We have a chance to have a franchise quarterback for 10 years. Good luck. Here's a nice little severance package. We'll see you on the other side.
Dan Quinn's star is on the rise. He was actually trending for me on my Twitter feed, and I was clicking on it to see, okay, what? Because I get a little cringy. I'm like, oh, no. If it's somebody I haven't heard for in a while, your first thought is, okay, are they still alive? But I was like, okay, did he do something bad? And he's just getting universal praise for the way that the Dallas Cowboys are playing, and just the infectious personality that he has. We talk about the head coach, and some of the comments I see a little bit are, I like Fangio, but I don't want these guys. Well, Fangio is the main chef. He's the one that's picking those guys. So if he's picking McMahon and if he's picking Shermer, that's part of the total package. Yep. So he's not going to be a defensive coordinator only. They don't do that when they're making multi-million a year to be the head coach. They might rehabilitate their career somewhere else. He might go become a defensive coordinator for the Giants or somebody that needs one next year to try and get back into a head coaching gig after a year. That happens all the time. But if you don't like the way that Shermer picks a team, or I'm sorry, that Fangio is picking his staff, that's part of it. It's absolutely part of it.
Yeah, and one thing I don't want to mess with too is moving on from Fangio. We got to give this guy his flowers right now. Mike Munchak, this Broncos offensive line, the way they've been playing recently. Now, granted, they are protecting the quarterback as much as the offensive line and pass reps right now, but the run game and the leaning on that and that offensive line finally getting healthy, except for Graham Glasgow, of course. The offensive line is starting to become the identity of this offense. The run game through the offensive line and the running backs is becoming the identity, and it's working. I do worry that this week the Bengals are going to load the box. They already are a good rushing team, but I think they're going to play very much a heavy box and say Teddy beat us in space, and that can be concerning, no doubt about it. With Teddy looks dinged up to me, and he's been playing not good football since week 3 for the most part. Somewhat efficient football, but not like he was the first 3 weeks where he was able to spread the ball around and get it to these weapons at will almost. But it's working right now. There's just going to have to be a counterpunch at some point, right? That they're going to take it away. Better teams, better defenses are going to take that away, and that's going to lead to Teddy having to play comeback football. And I just don't know if he has that in him.
And Chris, appreciate the stars in here. Always a big supporter of the pod. Michael coming in. Michael Pack says, I like this. This comment says, I'm all for coaching changes because there are some areas that need help. Special teams, offensive coordinator. Well, I really think the entire coaching staff needs to go. There was another one here that I wanted to see. It was, let me see. It was Tommy. So relax a bit on Fangio. We could have Urban Meyer. And my first thought on this was, this is how politicians get away with it. Yeah, my guy sucks, but at least he's not your guy. That's not good enough. Hold your guy accountable. If he's not good enough, do better. So, but yeah, I get the joke. I know you're just joking. And Urban Meyer flaming out in the NFL with professionals, that's hard to believe. That's tough.
Yeah, I mean, even not to the same extent, but another guy, college to the NFL, that looks like he's on his way out is Matt Rule. That seems to be falling apart there pretty quickly in Carolina, as you probably saw this last week with whatever they're doing there with the quarterback situation, and that offense in general is atrocious.
That's kind of what I wanted to say about the quarterback play. I'm like, I know we've got our own blinders on, and I almost sent it out there, but I was kind of afraid to. It's like, well, I didn't want to jinx it at the time either. It's like Atlanta Falcons complaining about Matt Ryan. That's what it could look like. Is watching the Carolina Panthers and Cam Newton, who's not effective, and PJ Walker, who's dropping back and throwing it up in the air. That's what bad quarterback play looks like. That's it. That's a quarterback that the Panthers were switch quarterbacks on that team, and the Panthers win by 3 touchdowns. That's how bad it can get.
Yep, absolutely. That's very true. I want to get to this from EJ. KJ Hamler's a bust. Don't know where this comes from. We should have drafted Trevon Diggs or Chase Claypool. It's way too early to say if KJ Hamler's a bust or not. And I guess he did have the injury concern coming in because he had the hamstring, but then he suffered a knee injury. So I think it's way too early to call KJ Hamler a bust. This team needs speed on the perimeter. That's something that this team is really lacking right now on those crossers. Right now, they're not getting the space because they don't have a guy who can get on that horse and scream across the field in that sense. And I think people overrate Hamler, the speed a bit vertically, but speed horizontally is just as important to decompress the defense and get to space. So I would say KJ Hamler's not a bust just yet. It's definitely disappointing. I'm hoping that he can be healthy next year because this team lacks explosive elements as far as speed right now on offense.
Right. And did the pick make sense at the time? There's times that sometimes it doesn't work out, but did it make sense at the time? Or were there other guys you're like, man, I really wish we would have taken these guys where it's fairly obvious, because you've heard me say before, I can't stand it when coaches try and like show everybody how smart they are by doing the stuff that no one else would have thought of. Well, there's a reason why. This is sports. This isn't rocket science. I don't have to solve anti-differentiated equations here. It's this guy's bigger and faster and better. I'm going to take him.
Yeah. Speed kills, man. There's always going to be a priority in speed in the NFL. I mean, you can see it right now, and not in just the NFL, but college football. This last week, Georgia, one of the best defenses ever. They had absolutely no answer for Jamison Williams at Alabama. They just could not cover him. The speed totally unlocked that. And then when you have a quarterback who's hitting those shots as well, you can be great in the trenches. You can have a team full of NFL players in your front seven. But that speed can break a game and can create explosive plays. I mean, the Alabama scored touchdowns on like 5 straight drives or something. Jamison Williams with 2 of them. So it matters. It matters.
That game Alabama had to win. Georgia didn't.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes when they probably get a rematch.
It's going to be unfortunate because Mechie got hurt, tore his ACL, so they're missing their number 2 wide receiver, which matters for Alabama because they cannot run the football, which is weird to say for an Alabama team, but they suck at running the football right now.
Well, Peter coming in with some more stars saying Cushenberry playing better at center.
Yep.
Still need a nose tackle. What do you think? He's thinking about the draft.
Cushenberry is playing better. Dalton Reisner is playing a lot better too. I think that we were pretty hard on Reisner early in the season, but I think since 3 weeks ago, Dalton Reisner has actually been one of the better offensive linemen out there in pass and run protection. I really like that they're starting to use more pin-pull concepts in the run scheme, where they're getting these guys in space and coming around the side and cracking an edge, which has been great. But Cushenberry is playing better as well. The entire interior offensive line has been, I would say, above average. And some of that is protecting them, no doubt. When you're running the football as physically and consistently and effectively as the Broncos, your offensive line is going to look better because offensive linemen will take the run reps every time over pass protection. It's so much more natural. Do I want to go forward and lean on a guy who's smaller, more athletic, maybe even longer than me as well? Or do I want to go backwards and sit there and be the reactive to those guys?
Low man wins.
Athletes? Absolutely.
Low man wins on that one. We talked about that early in the season, where how do you protect a young offensive line? You run the ball. And we got back to it. Like I said, it's not hard to spot an agenda. So what happens? You're running the ball 40 times a game. Now we're complaining that receivers aren't getting the ball enough. Come on.
You play to win the game.
Falling Sloth coming in with this comment. I like this one because it reminds me of one of the first things I remember hearing from a coach describing a skill position versus a bigger guy. Yeah. It says Hamler isn't a butt, but I do fear he ends up like John Ross, who just keeps blowing out his own tires with his speed, so to speak. And I think that, I don't remember the exact metaphor, but it was basically like a dragster versus a big diesel tractor. The dragster, it's fast from here to there, but it's so high tuned and high strung that something goes wrong all the time. There's so much power in it all the time. You make one run, then you got to work on it again. That diesel tractor is going to go for 50 years and have the torque and the power and the strength. And there's something to that with these super fast sprinter type players breaking down a little bit. There's something to that. And I appreciate the comment.
Yeah, and a big difference between Hamler and Ross is you took Hamler middle of the second round, where John Ross was the 9th overall pick, I think, in that class. So that's a big, you talk about return on investment. That changes the margins a little bit as far as what you have to get back for that pick. DWI guys coming in, $25, saying, was it just me or did Fant actually block like an animal in this game? Not just Fant, Alberto Quabenam as well, I thought had a pretty good game blocking. And both those guys have, I think, really started to lean into the identity of this team, that is the run game. And maybe it's frustrating for the wide receivers, but at least it seems like the tight ends are balling out. And to see Fant make a play down the field, you've heard me say it 100 times on here. Fant plays like a 1980s video game where all you have is A button to go forward as fast as you can and B button to stop. There's not any throttle on him. There's not very much control. But going straight vertically or sideline to sideline, giddy up. I mean, that guy can fly. So to see him more seam routes going forward to beat some cover 3 or split field safeties, I would love to see that from this pass game. Just to give him something to think about. Now it's on tape as well. I'd like to see a wrinkle off of that, something else where you can play off of that, because Fant can definitely put linebackers, safeties in a bind because he is bigger, faster, stronger.
The size difference is pretty stark. I mean, he's a big dude, and coming from the Big Ten, he should know how to block. So, like to see better effort, and that was definitely a good effort from Noah. Yeah. Greg come in, aloha. So want to thank you for sending all the rain south to our mountain ski resorts. I haven't been skiing in so long. I'm not even sure I could do it. Just kill my legs right now.
Yeah, a lot of good ski places up here in the Pacific Northwest. It's not as good as other areas because it's very wet snow, which apparently people don't want. You want that dry powder, not the compressed, wet, heavy snow, which is what we tend to get out here. But I need to get into skiing. Not much of that in the Midwest. That was like the one thing I did for my birthday right before the sick bug swept across the globe. I went skiing for the first time, and it was a little rough for me. Not the best. My wife was much better than me, unfortunately. She was a dancer forever, though, so she's way better with balance and stuff.
Well, and Jeremy comes in as this fan is somehow big and fast and soft at contact. We've talked about that with some of the big running backs. You know, you watch Royce Freeman. When those guys were that athletic at that size, they didn't have to be strong. They didn't learn how to run with power and user size because they could run by everybody. They never learned how to do that. It's like, you know, Derrick Henry was one of the softest high school players I ever scouted. I'm not kidding on that. He was a 6'3", 220-pound, 100-meter state champion. He didn't have to run into contact. He ran by everybody. He's playing at like AA or 3A in a small school at Yulee in Florida. When he went to Alabama, I said that's good because Nick Saban will either make a man out of him or he's going to wash out and be done with football. And we'll know. We will absolutely know. Well, guess what? He made a man out of him, and now he's a freaking beast. It may have come a little slower for Fant. You know, it may not have been time. When you're that big and fast, you don't have to learn how to play with power. So maybe it's coming. Fourth year, maybe it's tight end can have a long career. Was he 25, 26 years old? Get him another 10 years in the league, reinvent himself. It's still possible.
And that's, you talk about that. You have guys right now that we've played this season that really fit that bill where you're not giving up on athletic freaks at the tight end position because they tend to click a little bit later in their career. A guy that we're going to see this week for the Bengals, one of the most underrated tight ends in football, CJ Uzma. He's 27, 28 years old now, and he's really starting to click. Darren Waller took him a little bit. David Njoku.
I'm not mistaken on Uzma. I think he's from North Gwinnett High School and he played quarterback.
Yeah.
So he was a quarterback coming out. So learning the position and learning all that stuff isn't completely, foreign right there. And I think he went to the same high school as Jared Cook. Talk about a couple of big athletes. So, there's, I say all the time, it's an athlete's game, but there's still improvements to be made on the skill side of things for sure.
Yep. Yeah, I would not give up on Noah Fant just yet because it's not like the quarterback position. It's one that is based mainly on what you can do athletically. And we've seen Uzma and also Njoku, their fourth year, has really taken a huge step forward. So fingers crossed on that one that can be the case for Noah Fant going forward as well. We got Jesse Fraley coming in here saying, is there a page that has MHH broadcast schedule? Check the homepage and maybe I'm missing, but I didn't see it. Jesse, I'm going to make this really easy for you. We are very consistent for a reason. So that way you know when the shows are going to be. The Broncos live show, so that's Broncos for Breakfast. We are live Monday, Tuesday, Thursday at 7 a.m. Mountain Time, 7:30 Mountain Time. So I'm trying to do it all.
See how easy it is?
I'm in Pacific. So 7:30 Mountain Time, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. And then every single evening, Sunday through Saturday, you have the Broncos show, which is going to be at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. So that's obviously Building the Broncos, Huddle Up, Mile High Insiders, and Dove Valley Deep Divers. So if you're enjoying us in the mornings, we'll see you again on Thursday morning. I might be a little bit groggy because that'll be after flying across country back to my hometown in Iowa, but I'll be there.
Yep, hit that subscribe button and the alerts for the live shows, and it'll remind you. But yeah, just I'm not sure what time zone you're in. I'm Eastern, so 8 o'clock. A couple of them, they usually start between 8 and 8:15, and then 9:30 in the morning Eastern on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And let's see here it goes. Lord Deer has a comment. It says, crazy, there's only 32 key jobs in the whole world, and yet they're not all elite. 32 in the whole world. I know. And y'all have heard me say it before, and I'll say it again. Check out the first 2 rounds of the last 10 years of Major League Baseball. And that's where you're going to see your 6'4" guys throwing 95-mile-an-hour fastballs. that's where all your quarterbacks have gone. That's where all your throwers have gone. There's athletes playing quarterback position, but your big throwers, they're playing baseball.
Yeah. That's too bad Jacob Eason couldn't have done that. I don't even know where he's at now, but with his arm and his lack of mobility, he looks like he should have been a pitcher. No doubt about it. Wyatt, we're okay now. He said that he prefers the turnovers. I don't agree with him there, but we're both Hawks. So Fant was a stud at Iowa because they knew how to use him. Staff doesn't know how to use him right system as a top 5 tight end. We'll see. I put a lot of it on Fant, but he's also been dealing with injuries and the sudden passing of his mother as well. So we'll see.
And with his speed, he's a behind the linebackers type of guy, and you got a quarterback that's coming underneath because Fant is going to set a career high for receptions this year.
Yep.
And he'll do it before week 16, so it's not just because of the extra game. So it's like, why aren't we using Noah Fant? Noah Fant. Well, you are, but it's mostly underneath, and he's not a break a tackle and push guys forward. He's a try and get behind you. When we saw that this week on a nice go route up the right side when you had to run a wheel or something up that when you're isolated in coverage. But he's getting most of his stuff after. He's getting most of his catches underneath, and then he's not doing anything. So he's got no yak yards. But as far as being used, he is being used. But to your comment, not being used the right way, because I bet by what we got, 14, 15, 16, 17. So week 16, he'll set a career high in receptions this year.
Yeah, Noah Fant, there's a statistic that Next Gen Stats from the NFL, which is expected yards after catch. So it takes like every single catch that's ever happened at a certain area of the field. That's the denominator, and the yards after catch that player has in that situation. And they'll get you the plus minus then to see what that is. And Fant this year has a worse or a better yards after catch than an expected yards after catch, which means he's leaving a lot of meat on the bone. Which is not great. And he's been not very good after the catch this season. He needs to be better there, no doubt about it. And it's really unfortunate, and I get why Broncos fans are frustrated with him in this sense. When you see Alberto Cuebanam out there on, making 3 guys miss and playing really physical, barreling to the end zone, when you see Fant go down against a 180-pound safety for 1 yard, I get it. I'm frustrated too, and I'm a Hawkeye fan, and definitely a little easier on them. Try not to be, but it's hard sometimes with that one. But we got Naj coming in at the buzzer. Hey, bro, has been very impressed with Vic recently. Seems he has improved in how he approaches the players and his humility and game planning. I also feel for Shermer finally gets it. Don't force the issue with Teddy. Run the ball. Yeah, it's definitely with Shermer. That second quarter was bad. I think the Broncos passed it 10 times and ran it 3 in every single other quarter. They ran it way more than they passed it. Maybe some of that is working through some kinks with Teddy. Like, hey, we're looking pretty good. Let's treat this kind of like an exhibition game. Get the quarterback feeling a little bit better out there. Then all of a sudden, the Lions are running the ball really effectively against the Broncos front 7, which was a little scary for me. Obviously, they have a pretty good offensive line, but still a little scary. But running the ball, that's the team's bread and butter. I just worry that at some point, there's going to have to be a counter to the Broncos running the football because some team's going to load the box. They're going to say, listen, Teddy, beat us through the air, beat us vertically, beat us outside the hash marks. We're going to give you those options, even with these wide receivers who are creating space right now for the, that's why you have somewhat have those weapons. Even if they're not getting the ball, teams are having to account for them. And that's a spacing thing, making the running game more effective, alas. But there's going to have to be a counter to this. There's just no doubt. That's football.
As far as working out the kinks, I think you're giving him too much credit. I think he just panics.
Teddy?
Honestly. I think he panics. Like, oh, we got to get a score. We got to move the ball down and relax. Yeah. Relax. Run the ball. We definitely need to see more play action. That's for sure. If you're running the ball like this, the big play should be there. We've said at the very beginning, arm strength isn't about the long throw. Play action, throwing over the top. High school quarterbacks can throw the ball 50, 60 yards downfield. That's not it. So it's there. You want to use, again, getting back to how to use Noah Fant, let him chip a guy and take off running on play action. 5 steps, he's behind the line, hit him. So I want to see the play action game come alive because that's where your big plays are going to be with Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we got Paris, who's been a consistent supporter of the show. So I want to give Paris some love. Thank you so much. Even though sometimes Paris, I think you are a little bit, not as good vibes as we want after a victory, coming off of Victory Monday, but keeping it real, keeping it grounded. And we appreciate everybody in the community, all voices, as long as we're keeping it on point, which Paris definitely does. So Paris coming in. What kind of crazy nonsense offense do we have? We have top wide receivers and do not throw them the ball, but yet we want to run every play. This makes no sense to anything. Well, what makes sense to me is do what you do best. And so far this season, especially recently, the Broncos have been running the ball much more effectively than they have been passing it. Yes, you do have weapons that in theory should be pretty good because you paid, and they're not getting the ball right now. And it's got to be frustrating for them sometimes to go out there. It's not like the Tebow offense where you had Demaryius Thomas and Eric Decker out there and Julius Thomas with a quarterback who was, bouncing at 20 feet in front of them. But right now, Teddy looks injured and he's not playing effective. And this team is leaning on the run game, leaning on the defense, and that's a winning formula for them for the most part. So, it's not crazy nonsense when it works. And you have those wide receivers. Guess what? They're not going anywhere. Teddy Bridgewater might be going somewhere, but those receivers, you got those guys locked up. They're not going anywhere. It's not just about what this season is. It's about what the makeup of this team is for the next 3+ seasons. And you have those 3 wide receivers locked up. Makes it pretty good for a veteran. Makes it pretty good for a rookie if you go that route.
I want to see 40 carries, 4 receptions each for the running backs, and 17 to 25 throwing from Bridgewater.
Yeah.
To me, that's almost identical to what you had against Dallas. That's what almost identical to what you had against Detroit. That is how this team wins football games. It's the run game. But what we want to see more of, Paris, is what I was just talking about, was the play action. If you're running the ball, especially early at 12 yards a clip, for God's sakes, if I see 2nd and 2, don't just go 2.5 yards for a first down. Take a free shot, please.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that drive me crazy. I don't remember which game. It may have been the Broncos, but consecutive 2nd and 2s were running plays.
Yep. It was the Broncos. It was
consecutive, and that's frustrating for me. It's like that's when you're going to take your chances. And I thought I saw one more in here that I wanted to get to, but that's okay. Oh, here it was. It was Peter. Peter coming in one more time. He says, if Gordon was on less, would the fans be cheering for him more? Now, my understanding is that he came in. I always hear Mike Boone replace Philip Lindsay, but when was Melvin Gordon in here?
Melvin Gordon is brought in.
If he's coming in on big money behind a very popular underdog, gritty story like Philip Lindsay, there's going to be some animosity there anyway. It's like, why don't you pay this guy? Well, Hindsight has shown us why you haven't paid this guy. Philip Lindsay hasn't done anything except play on 3 different teams since he's left the Broncos. And Melvin Gordon's a pretty good back. But yeah, the money, the Chargers, and Philip Lindsay, those were 3 pretty big strikes of why Melvin Gordon hasn't been more popular.
Yeah, and not only with Lindsay's the hometown kid, the undrafted free agent, which has a high revere in Denver. He is from Denver.
Cut Rudy and gave this guy $20 million. That makes people angry.
Yep, absolutely. And then the other thing is people want the shiny new toy. You trade up for Javonte Williams. Why the hell do we want Melvin Gordon, who we already feel, because they brought him in, means that the Broncos weren't fair to Philip Lindsay? There's no such thing as fair in football, folks, but that's sorry. I think that people would appreciate Gordon more if it's just one circumstance after another was not ideal for him, but he's been really good. There's no doubt about it. He's been really good.
I've said it several times. I'll say it again. I love the way the running backs have been handled this year. I think it's been brilliant. Mm-hmm. I think you're getting the best out of both of them with a rookie and a 17-game schedule and a guy that's going to be a free agent next year. I think the quarterback rotation, the running back rotation has been just spot on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, I have to get going. I got to fly. So appreciate everyone coming in here. Make sure you're following. This is Huddle Up Podcast Network, obviously, Mile High Huddle. Make sure you're following Scott and myself on Twitter. Scott is at Scout Kennedy, and I am at Nick Kendell, MHH. Also, make sure you're following us at Huddle Up Pod and at Mile High Huddle. If you're on Facebook, make sure you're joining our communities there at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. If you guys like to give us 5 stars, but disparage me, please go to Apple Podcasts and leave a 5-star rating and review there. It makes me laugh because I get it, man. We can have different opinions and I can take it. I really actually do enjoy the back and forth as long as it's kept respectful and we're living in reality. Sometimes that's not the case, but that's an important one. Make sure you're following us on YouTube by subscribing, liking, and sharing, as well as following us on Scott's channel on YouTube at youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy. Scott, what are you going to do tomorrow without me? Are you you're going to have to show up?
I don't know. I'll probably put together a list of things and talk some draft, talk a little Falcons. The Falcons are in the playoffs. They're playoff hunt. They're 6-7 and go to San Francisco this week. So get a good look at Shanahan, who's 7-6. There's only 6 teams with winning records in the NFC. It's really, really bad football. But hey, we're in the playoff hunt.
where do I send flowers to Matt Ryan for the inevitable outcome of the matchup that will be Nick Bosa versus Caleb McGarry, because have you watched any of that Cincinnati game yet?
I haven't.
Nick Bosa beat the absolute bleep out of the Cincinnati right tackle, and Caleb McGarry is the worst right tackle in football. Good luck.
He's been okay the last 2 weeks. He's been okay.
Yeah. Well, he hasn't gone up against Nick Bosa.
That could change in a hurry.
God, man. Nick Bosa is really good. So is Joey. But guys, we're going to get out of here. We love y'all. Stay safe. Choose kindness and compassion. And I'll see you tonight. Go Broncos.